Welcome to Republic Eyes. So in this video, we will discuss the important news items of The Hindu. So coming to the first page, that is, if you see the headlines, that is recovery rate rises to 25% says government. So this article is not important. So we'll not discuss this. And the next article, that is March core sector output slumps 6.5%. So this article happens to be an important article and you need to know the background of it. So friends, let me ask you a question. What do you mean by core sector? So here the core sector refers to 8 core industries in India. So why it is referred as core industries in the sense? See, it is very important for our Indian economy. So these 8 core industries include coal, crude oil, cement, fertilizer, electricity, refineries, natural gas and steel. So I have a simple technique to remember this, that is C cube ferns. So C cube refers to coal, crude oil and cement, and ferns refers to fertilizer, electricity, refineries, natural gas and steel. So by this way you can remember this quite easily. Okay, so these are 8 core industries which plays an important role with regards to Indian economy. Okay, right, fine. Now the news article reads, March core sector output slumps 6.5%. So it says that the performance of these core industries is like poor. Okay, so here you need to know like how the performance of these core industries are measured. That is, the performance of these 8 core industries are measured. So friends, there are 2 index which takes into consideration these 8 core industries. One is index of 8 core industries. So the name itself is index of 8 core industries. And the other one is IIP, that is index of industrial production. So we'll see one by one. So if you take index of 8 core industries, then it sees the performance of each industries on a monthly basis. And in this index, weightage is given to certain industries. For example, the highest weightage is given to refineries, or we can tell petroleum refineries or refineries product. So in index of 8 core industries, the highest weightage is given to petroleum refinery, that is 28%. And the least weightage is given to fertilizer. So what we can tell is like, if the petroleum refineries are performing good, then it will have a big reflection in the index of 8 core industries because of the weightage which it has got in the index. Fine, so it goes like this. So here is the weightage which is given. So you need to see the weightage for the first 2 and the least 2, which will be more than enough for your UPSC prelims. Okay, so this is with regards to index of 8 core industries. And one more information which you need to know with regards to this index is like, see, it is compiled and released by Office of Economic Advisor. Okay, so the Office of Economic Advisor, it is under DPIIT. So DPIIT refers to Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. Okay, so earlier it was named as DIPP. So we can tell DPIIT happens to be an upgraded form of DIPP. That is Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Okay, so now it is termed as, or it is called as, Department for the Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. So this happens to be a department which is under Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, so it is this Office of Economic Advisor which is under the particular department and ministry releases the data. That is index of 8 core industries. Okay, is that clear? And this happens to be an monthly index. So through the headlines itself, you will get to know like March. Okay, so the March month index is released now and we can see a decrease of 6.5%. So this is what the news article reads. Okay, so this is one index in which the 8 core industries performance is analyzed. And one more index which takes into consideration these 8 core industries are index of industrial production. Okay, so friends, index of industrial production happens to be a big index. So we can tell this as a big index because it reflects the Indian industrial sector. Okay, so it is not only an index of 8 core industries, rather it reflects industrial production of India, or we can say like it reflects the industrial production of our economy. And this data is also released on a monthly basis by NSO, that is National Statistical Office. So earlier it was CSO, now again it is upgraded into NSO, that is National Statistical Office. Okay, so friends, if you take IIP, that is Index of Industrial Production, then here the industries are measured based upon the sectors. Okay, so what they do is like they classify industries into 3 broad-based sectors. One is manufacturing and the other one is like mining and the third one is like electricity. Okay, so these are the 3 broad-based sectors, and what they used to do is like they used to place industries in a particular sector. For example, if you take electricity, which is also an core industry, so it will be placed in electricity, and the same goes with other industries. So generally they classify industries into 3 broad-based sectors and they used to calculate. And even in this, like weightage is there. So if you take the broad-based sectors, that is mining, manufacturing and electricity, the highest weightage is given to manufacturing, followed by mining, and the third one is like electricity. Okay, so if you take manufacturing, nearly about 600 items are there. So I don't know the exact figure. I just want you to Google and know the items which is there in manufacturing, or the number of industries which forms a part of manufacturing sector. So it has the highest weightage, and even the number of industries under manufacturing are more, followed by mining, followed by electricity. But if you take electricity has only one industry, that is an electricity industry, which also happens to be an core industry. Okay, so this is how it is classified. So this is one way of classification, and the other way in which industries are classified in IIP is like it is based upon used based sectors. So they generally classify goods into basic goods, capital goods, and intermediate goods, and they classify industries based upon the goods or the type of goods which they produce, and they place them under basic goods or capital goods or intermediate goods, so that they get to know the performance of the industries. Okay, so this is index of industrial production, which is released by NSO on a monthly basis. Okay, so what does these 8 core industries have a role in this IIP? So if we consider this, then what we can tell is like this 8 core industries constitute nearly about 40% in IIP. Okay, so 40% of the weight in IIP. Okay, so I would have given you a table here. So from this you will get to know that the electricity has been allocated nearly about 10% of weight in the IIP index. So if we take index of industrial production, so 10% of weightage is given to electricity alone, followed by steel, which has nearly about 6 to 7% of the weightage, and the least weightage is given to natural gas. Okay, fine. So friends, please have a note that the weightage is with regards to IIP, that is index of industrial production. So they constitute nearly about 40%, and out of this 40%, electricity constitute more. So even UPSC can ask questions, and it has asked questions with respect to weightage. So UPSC is not going to ask you like what is a percentage, but again, UPSC can ask like which has the highest weightage or which has the least weightage. So you can expect these sort of questions from UPSC. Okay, and of course, you need to know who releases the data and what is the time period. Okay, fine. So this is how UPSC generally asks questions. And if you come to this article says that the index of 8 core industries, which has some 40% of weightage in the index of industrial production, reflected a contraction. That is, it has performed poor. And the only core sector which performed good or which saw some growth is coal sector. But again, friends, these data are like temporary. These are not permanent, and these data tend to change. Okay, and because of this COVID-19 impact, you can expect poor performance in the industries. Okay, so yeah, you need to know the background, and what I'll recommend you is like please have a go through so that you will get to know. Fine. Anyway, we'll move on to the next article, that is Parliament project gets panel note. So again, see, a new parliament building is going to be constructed, it seems. So the government is planning to construct a new parliament, and of course for that it has got approval. And see, these sort of construction activities or these sort of works is to be done by Public Works Department, that is Central Public Works Department. So they will take care of that, and for UPSC this is not important. Okay, and icon of romance takes a final bow. So Mr. Rishi Kapoor has passed away. So this news item is with regards to it. So again, not an important article, but yeah, if you're preparing for other sort of examinations like banking examinations, you can just have a go through if you want to. Fine. And coming to page number 2, nothing is important. The same goes with 3, 4 and 5. Okay, so COVID-19 has a dominant role to play in the newspaper, so these are not important. Instead, you can focus on your statics rather than going through these articles. Fine. Anyway, coming to the editorial page, that is page number 6. So you have an article which is called as Religion and Freedom. Okay, so what happened is like there happens to be a commission, that is US Commission on International Religious Freedom. So this happens to be a commission of US. Okay, so this is not an like United Nations Commission, or this is not a worldwide an intergovernmental organization or something like that. Rather, this happens to be a commission of the United States of America, that is US Commission on International Religious Freedom. Fine. And the work of this commission is to like they review the facts and circumstances of violation with regards to religious freedom. Okay, so to be more precise, like they just see internationally, like in what and all nations there happens to be a violation of religious freedom, and they tend to report it. That is like they make policy recommendations to the president and also to the parliament of US. Okay, so any violations of religious freedoms, this commission will review it. So this is the basic work of this United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. Okay, so what happened recently is like this commission has categorized India as a country of particular concern. Okay, so the countries of particular concern happens to be a ranking, or we can say it happens to be an lowest rank which is given by the commission. Okay, so it has placed India with alongside countries like China, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, and even Pakistan. So earlier we were in tier 2 country, and right now it has placed as in countries of particular concern. So this happens to be an term which is used by the commission to place a country in lower ranking, that is countries of particular concern. Anyway, so the article tries to say that, see, placing India as a country of particular concern is not something which is surprising, because there happens to be an violence on the lines of secularism, and even with regards to government measures like religious based oppositions was seen last year. So it is not surprising that we are placed here. Okay, but the important thing which we need to know is like, what is the reaction of India to it? So the Indian government has rejected the report, and added to it, we have also said that this is ridiculous. Like, this is the stand of Indian government. Okay, so this is the stand of our government. Fine. Now a question arises, what impact it could have on India? So what is the impact of this independent autonomous commission of US terming our nation into a country of particular concern? So what impact it could have? See, one may think that it will have an impact on our bilateral relationship with US. But again, this article tries to say that, see, our bilateral relationship with US depends upon the strategic interest of USA or America. Okay, so if USA is benefiting out of our bilateral relations, so it might be in any sector, it might be with regards to trade or helping each other, so it might be anything. So bilateral relations depends upon the strategic interest of a particular nation, and it is not based upon these sort of reports. Fine, but see, if we also take the history of US, then US do take into consideration factors such as democracy, tolerance, freedom which is given to the public, transparency. So they do consider these sort of things. But there is no concrete evidence that it is based upon only these factors they establish a bilateral relationship. Okay, so this article tries to say that this is not going to have an impact on the relationship between India and US. So this happens to be the first point. Now, with regards to India, this article tries to say that, see, with regards to global opinion, that is when it comes to India, with regards to the global opinion on India, what do we do is like, we appreciate the convenient ones and we reject the inconvenient ones. So this is what is something which is followed by India, according to this article I am telling. So this article tries to quote an example of ease of doing business. So India got a good ranking in the ease of doing business, and it forecasted itself to be doing good. But when it comes to these sort of criticisms, we are rejecting it. Fine. Plus added to it, see, one may also need to understand like why this report has categorized India as a country of a particular nation. So the article tries to say it is because of the ongoing events in India for the past 1 year. For instance, it might be related to NRC in Assam, and also with regards to major religious violence in several parts of country with regards to NRC and CAB. So this might be the reason for it. So considering all these situations, the government did respond earlier. So the Indian government has asked the Niti Aayog to engage with the global bodies who are bringing out these sort of index. So the government has asked the Niti Aayog to track some 32 index, and it has also asked the Niti Aayog to engage with the bodies and to see what is the stance of India. And added to it, it has also asked the Niti Aayog to give reforms or to give suggestions on the reforms which India needs to take in order to rank good. Fine. And added to it, this article tries to say that, see, if we take India, then India tries to advertise itself to the world that we happen to be a multi-religious democracy. Plus added to it, we also try to advertise ourselves that we follow rule of law. So by rule of law, what we mean is like, see, law is supreme and the government is bounded by the law. So the government should work within the limits of the law. So this is one aspect of rule of law, and the other aspect is like everyone is equal before the law. So the law is not discriminatory to one and it is not supportive to the other. So it's not like that. Rather, equality before the law is one of the principles of rule of law. Equal subjection of all citizens, irrespective of his religion, economic status, and so on. So this is what we mean by rule of law. And we tell to the world that we follow rule of law, right? So this article tries to say, see, we have such a good ambition. So we are very ambitious when we advertise ourselves to the world like this. But at the same time, these sort of reports or the record on religious freedom and the recent events which is happening in our nation for the last 1 year, this happens to be a cause of concern. Plus added to it, one more concern is like, see, the religious violence and these sort of anti-sentiment against the government and not following the rule of law in several parts of the country. This has been seen in our nation for the past 1 year, and the problem is there is no settlement to it. So it says that the government should take steps in order to settle it. And because of these factors, it is the reputation of a nation which is at cost. Because see, reputation is something which is important for a country's economic development as well as for the global standing. Fine. So this is one aspect. Plus added to it, as a conclusion, this article tries to say that, see, global standing and added to it, the reputation of a nation, it is a good point to consider. But in order to have a functioning democracy, which happens to be a basic structure of a constitution, which ensures democracy, for that to prevail, we need to have a proper rule of law and communal harmony. So this is an essential thing which the government should focus on. So this is what this article tries to say. Fine. So if you want to conclude this article tries to say is that there is a prevalence of religious violence, which is a cause of concern for our democracy as well as a concern with regards to the reputation of India. Plus added to it, even though we reject these sort of reports which is given by an autonomous American organization, even though we reject it, it does have a say. Fine. So it might not impact the bilateral relationship, but again, it is high time for us to consider this. So this is the opinion which we can infer from this article. Fine. Okay. And the next article, Biden's bid, is not an important article, so we'll not discuss this. And coming to the next page, that is in the opinion page, you have an article that is called as Plasma Therapy is No Silver Bullet. So this article is all about plasma therapy, and it tries to say that like we need to have an scientific evidence to prove that plasma therapy can help in treating COVID-19 patients. Fine, but anyway, see, what we'll do is like we'll first see the background. Okay, so first we'll try to understand the background and then we'll analyze this article. Fine. So friends, first of all, you need to know like what are the major components of blood. Okay, so blood, obviously everyone must be knowing it's a body fluid. It's a specialized body fluid, and it has four main components. So the main components of bloods are like WBC, RBC, that is white blood cells and red blood cells. Plus added to it, we have plasma and platelets. Fine. So these are four main components of blood. Okay. So what is the work of blood? So they transport oxygen, they transport nutrients. Plus added to it, like they prevent blood clots, or like they bring in blood clots, or they form blood clots to prevent excessive blood loss. Plus added to it, they regulate body temperature, and they carry antibodies and cells to fight the infections. Fine. So there are many functions of blood. So anyway, our concern is with regards to plasma. So plasma, which happens to be the liquid component of the blood, is something which we need to focus more about. Fine. So generally it is said that plasma happens to be the liquid portions of the blood. So why it is called the liquid portions of the blood is because of its components. So generally plasma contains salt, sugar and water, and of course enzymes, and added to it, it also contains nutrients and antibodies. Fine. So this happens to be the liquid component of the blood, a mixture of water and other nutrients and antibodies. Its main job is to like transport blood cells throughout our body with these antibodies and other proteins. Fine. So it tries to maintain body fluid balance. It tries to maintain a balance of blood. But the main role of the plasma is to take nutrients, hormones and proteins to the parts of the body, to the other parts of the body. Fine. Plus added to it, even like cells are there in a body, right? So cells, what do is like they put their waste in the plasma, and what the plasma do is like they carry the waste and they help in removing the waste from our body. Fine. Okay, so this is some basic about the plasma. Fine. And friends, to be more specific, like we can compare plasma to water. Actually, the thing is like if you take plasma, inside plasma you will find like nearly about 90% of plasma will be of water, and the other 8 to 10% will be of like other nutrients and other antibodies. Fine. Okay. So here we talk about plasma therapy. So you need to know about plasma donation. So generally what happens is like in plasma donation, the liquid portion of the blood is separated from the cells. That is like they will collect the blood and it will be sent to a machine from which the plasma will be separated. Fine. And even the technology has so improved that after separating the plasma, the red blood cells and the other platelets which are left out, it is also returned back to the donor, adding some saline. Okay, anyway, so this is all about plasma donation. Now, the question arises, why there is a need for plasma therapy and how it can help against COVID-19 or the coronavirus. See, as we saw in the background, plasma contains antibodies. Fine. And antibodies are something which is related to immunity. See friends, when a virus is injecting a body or when a virus attacks our cells, towards the response, our body creates antibodies. Fine. So antibodies are created to fight against the virus, which is called as antigen. And these antibodies are there in plasma. Okay. So that's why we go for vaccination. So vaccination is something where a dead virus is injected into our body, where the body will create a response. That is, the body will create antibodies against the dead virus. And because the virus is dead, it will not have an impact on our body. Fine. But however, the antibodies is created. So whenever in future the same sort of virus comes and attacks our body and it tries to inject, the antibodies will prevent and will create an immunity. Fine. So now you must be knowing that there are many COVID-19 patients who have recovered from COVID-19. So obviously they would have created an antibodies against the COVID-19 virus. So what the doctor thought is like, we will take the plasma and we will use this plasma antibodies to create immunities. So this is the concept. Fine. So here you need to know two concepts, that is passive immunity and active immunity. See, active immunity is something which we get through vaccination. So to generate an immune response, a dead virus is injected inside a body and the body in reaction to it, it generates antibodies. So this is the concept of active immunity, in which an immune response is created towards the virus. Fine. So this is active immunity. Where passive immunity is something where, see, immunity is developed outside and then it is injected into humans. Fine. So immunity is developed outside in the sense it might be developed into horses, like generally for diphtheria or for other diseases. Generally what they used to do is like they used to generate immunity in horses, and after that, that is like once the immunity is generated in the horses, they used to take that antibodies and they tend to inject that into humans. So this is called as passive immunity. And in case of plasma therapy, what we are doing is like we are taking out the plasma, and out of which we used to take out the antibodies, and we will use that antibodies to treat COVID-19 patients. So this is a concept of passive immunity. Okay. So UPSC prelims might ask you like, what is the difference between active immunity and passive immunity? Or it might ask you a direct question on plasma. Fine. Plus added to it, see, some medical researchers say that temporary immunity. So temporary immunity in the sense it's like for a short period of time, temporary immunity can be activated in a person without injecting any dead virus. Fine. So to activate temporary immunity, what we need to do is like we need to infuse antibodies or activated cells obtained from the blood of others, which is the concept of passive immunity. Fine. And the thing is like these things are not permanent in nature, rather they do last for some 2 to 3 weeks. And during this time, the person will be protected against the virus. Fine. So this is the concept of passive immunity. So right now what India planned is like, that is ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. They tried to create a protocol in which the blood plasma from the infected person or from the cured person can be taken to treat COVID-19 serious patients. But however, the thing is like it might have an side effects, which we don't know. Fine. So coming to the article, this article tries to say, see, there is a need for more research. So this article tries to say that, see, for fighting against this COVID-19 pandemic, scientific research happens to be the key. So scientific research in medicines happens to be the key, which will help us to come out of this situation. So everyone knows that. But it doesn't mean that we implement without any research or without any scientific backing or evidential backing. And this article tries to say that, see, plasma therapy, it is still in a trial stage and we cannot tell that this will work on all the patients at all the time. So what we require is like randomized trial. That is like we need to randomly put this into testing. But this is not happening. Plus added to it, what is happening is like there is too much focus which is given to this plasma therapy, which somewhere or the other take out the importance on other researchers also. Fine. So here the article is not against the plasma therapy, but what it tries to say is like there needs to be an concrete evidence in order to implement this, because it is not clear that it will cure, and the side impacts or the side effects of this is like clearly unknown. So this is what this article tries to say. Fine. Anyway, the background which we saw, so that is important. Rather, this article is just an opinion. Fine. Anyway, coming to the next page, that is page number 8. There is an important article with regards to GI tag, that is Geographical Indication tag. So Chak How, it's a black variety of Manipur, black variety rice of Manipur, and Gorakhpur terracotta. So these two have got Geographical Indication tag. So friends, you need to know what is the meaning of an GI status first of all. So it is an indication that identify goods as a product from a particular area. Okay, so this is associated with a place. So that's why the name Geographical Indication. So the particular area will have an special quality or any reputation with regards to the geographical origin. Fine. So in India, we have geographical indication of goods Registration and Protection Act 1999, which governs the GI tag. So we have Controller General of Patent, Designs and Trademark. Okay, fine. So Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademark, who administers this geographical indications. That is like they maintain the register of geographical indications. So the act is Geographical Indications of Goods Protection and Registration Act 1999. Fine. And the advantage of a product termed as an geographical indication is that no third party can use this products or use such geographical indications to their own advantages. And also see, for a product to be or for a product to get a geographical indication tag, the particular goods should be produced and it should be processed or it should be prepared in a particular region, and added to it, it should also have a special quality or reputation. Fine. So it is after that a geographical indication is given, and added to it, it is not for all the goods. It is for like three sort of categories of goods. We can classify them into manufactured, natural and agricultural. Fine. So recently Manipur black rice, Gorakhpur terracotta and Kovilpatti kadala So Kovilpatti kadala happens to be in place in Tamil Nadu. Kovilpatti happens to be in place in Tamil Nadu, in which a particular candy which is made up of nut and jaggery has got an geographical indication. Fine. And Gorakhpur terracottas is like, these are like centuries old, and terracotta elephants and horses used to be made by those Gorakhpur people. So the arts has been recognized now. Fine. So the potters will get some good recognition from this geographical indication tag. Okay. So these are the information which we can infer from this news item. See, added to it, what I'll recommend you is like, please go to the website of Controller General of Patents, Designs and Trademark. So you do have the website, and in the website you just see the list of geographical indication. Fine. So the latest one will do better, so that if at all UPSC asks questions, you can try to answer. Because see, recently even Rasagulla from Odisha got geographical indication tag. Fine. So you can get these information from the website. Okay. Now coming to the next page, that is page number 9. You have no articles which we can tell as important. The same goes with page number 10 also. Fine. And now coming to the page number 11. So if you look at this news item, that is activists seek testing for Ganga Water for COVID-19 treatment. So here I just want you to check one organization, that is National Mission for Clean Ganga. Okay, so this deals with cleaning up of Ganga. So what they have done is like, they have recommended to ICMR, telling that to examine the Ganga water and to see whether Ganga water can be used to treat the COVID-19 patients. Okay, so it might look funny, but the thing is like, the reason for this proposal is like, see, there happens to be an institute which is called as National Environmental Engineering and Research Institute, Nagpur. So the name of the institute is not important, but yeah, what they have suggested is like, see, the upper layer of the Ganga has bacteriophages, it seems. So bacteriophages happens to be an sort of virus which attacks bacteria. That is like, which has the tendency to destroy bacteria. Fine. So it has the tendency to destroy bacteria, and generally it is said that virus do not attack other virus. Fine. So this is the concept which you need to know, like there is no evidence to prove that a virus can destroy another virus. But in this case, this happens to be a bacteriophage. Bacteriophage is also a sort of virus which can kill bacteria but not virus. And in the case of COVID-19, this happens to be a virus. So bacteriophage being a virus can kill bacteria but not virus. Fine. But anyway, they have just suggested that you please do consider, because it has bacteriophages in it. That is River Ganga. And even with respect to our tradition, one must be knowing that having a bath in Ganga like purifies your mind, body, souls, and it goes on. So they have just made a suggestion. But anyway, with regards to UPSC, what you need to know is like, what is the meaning of a bacteriophage, and you need to know that there is no evidence to prove that a virus can kill another virus. Fine. Anyway, we'll move on to the next news item. That is like, we'll move on to the next page, page number 14. So here you get a news item that is like, Germany extends ban on Hezbollah. So you need to know what is the meaning of an Hezbollah. So this happens to be an Shia group, or we can also tell like this happens to be a militant group or an Shia Islamic political party based in Lebanon. Fine. And see, this group is considered to be a terrorist organization in some countries. Okay. So this leads us to a question like who names a particular organization as a terrorist organization, and what is the procedure for it? See guys, like organizations can be like designated as an terrorist organizations or can be termed as an terrorist organizations by a particular country as such. And even like it is the work of United Nations Security Council to like officially designate an organization as a terrorist organization. So internationally it is United Nations Security Council. So it has certain resolutions based upon which it has the power to designate an organization as terrorist organization. And added to it, country by their own domestic law can designate an organization as a terrorist organization. For instance, in the case of India, it is Unlawful Activities and Prevention Act. So under Unlawful Activities and Prevention Act, the Home Ministry can designate an organization as a terrorist organization. I hope you understand. And with regards to this news item, it is said that there are many Lebanese people in Germany. So there are many migrants from Lebanon who are living in Germany. And this happens to be an cause of concern for the Germany. And Hezbollah being an political party, which happens to be an Shia Islamic political party, happens to be a cause of concern for the German government. So what is happening in Germany is like the police are raiding out places, they are finding out the migrants, and there's also an indication that there might be some Hezbollah Shia group people might be living in Germany. So this happens to be a cause of concern. So the news item is with respect to it. But for you, what you need to know is like Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, based upon which we name an organization as a terrorist organization. Fine. Anyway, so the next news item reads that coronavirus is pulling millions back into the poverty, estimates World Bank. So again, it's a self-explanatory article which I want you to go through on your own. Okay, so there's nothing much concept involved in it where it requires an explanation. Fine, so go through it by yourself. And the next page, that is page number 15, you have a news item that is like MF scheme benefits now for all banks. Okay, so you need to know about this mutual fund scheme, which is recently launched by Reserve Bank of India. And before getting into this article, we'll just see the whole issue. Fine. Okay. So friends, what happened is like, there happens to be a mutual fund company that is called as Franklin Templeton. Okay. So it is one of the mutual funds house. So it is said that this Franklin Templeton is India's 9th largest mutual fund house. But anyway, the number is not important, but still its market presence is more. Okay. So what happened is like, recently they have announced that they are winding up some 6 depth schemes. Okay. Now a question arises, what is the meaning of a depth scheme? See friends, like depth fund is a mutual fund. See, in mutual fund, what you do is like you invest money in a particular company. Say for instance, this Franklin. You give your money to Franklin, and what the Franklin will do is like, he will invest the money in the market. Okay, and the money which is invested in the market will give returns to Franklin, who will give the returns to you. So this is how mutual fund works. Okay, so you give money to a particular company, they will take some calculative decisions and they will place money accordingly. Okay, so when it comes to the depth fund, see, depth fund investments are either in listed depth instruments or unlisted depth instrument. So the thing is like, they don't go and invest in share market. That is in depth fund. The mutual fund companies don't go and invest in share markets. Rather, they invest in government bonds or corporate bonds. Okay. And friends, you must be knowing that like in bonds market, there happens to be a rating. See, when it comes to government bonds, like they might get a periodic rate of interest. But this interest rate is very less. Plus added to it, when it comes to corporate bonds or when it comes to like unlisted companies, the rating of the companies is not good in the case of India. And plus added to it, because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, many companies are facing losses. Okay, so mutual fund companies, in order to overcome this, what they need to have is like, they need to have some liquidity in their hand. That is, they need to have some money in their hand so that they can invest in other areas and can overcome the losses which is happening as of right now. But this is not the scenario because there are no creditors in the market. Plus added to it, there happens to be a liquidity crisis. Okay. And it is said that, see, the Franklin was about to shut down some 6 schemes. And all the 6 schemes happens to be an depth scheme. Okay. And these depth schemes were associated with unlisted depth instruments in the market. Plus added to it, the profit the company is going to earn from the depth funds or from the unlisted depth instruments. This also changes with regards to the market forces because the interest rate keeps on changing. Fine. So because of this, the particular depth mutual funds was facing a huge loss. So the company decided that they're going to shut down some 6 depth funds. Now a question arises, then what about the investors? That is like, they would have invested in the schemes, right? So whatever the schemes might be, the company names it, but which is not important for us. But yes, so if they are going to shut down these schemes, then obviously the investors is going to be affected, right? So the company said that, see, what we'll do is like, we will sell off all the government securities and all the investment which is made with regards to the scheme. That is like whatever debt instruments or unlisted debt instruments which is there, we will sell all these and the investors will get the returns. So this is what the company had to tell. Okay. And it is estimated that nearly about 30,000 crores of the investors' assets are involved via the schemes. So this makes a huge amount, right? And this happens to be in financial institutions, and that too a mutual fund company who invest in the stock market. So RBI doesn't want these sort of companies to like go down. Fine. So if they would have invested in stock market, the situation is not something which is like worrisome, because stock markets are fluctuating. You can invest in a diversified field. But when it comes to like bonds market, or when it comes to government securities, there happens to be a huge risk. See, risk is not there in government securities, but it is there in cooperative bonds. So winding up will simply mean that the investor will get some cash based upon the situation which was prevailing. So this happened to be a worrisome scenario, because this is not good for the economy. It's because like people will lose trust on the mutual funds, plus added to it, as I said earlier, mutual funds are the companies who tend to invest in the stock markets and also in government securities. And the ongoing situation is because of liquidity crisis. So if the particular company has some credit, or if someone helps the particular company, they might invest in some other thing to overcome the losses. But again, a question rises like why the particular mutual fund house has to face the loss and why not other. But anyway, it's a question of debate. So what happened was Reserve Bank of India felt that reforms needed to be taken, because mutual funds houses are quite important for the economy, because they are someone who pool the investment into the stock market and even government securities, right? So what they decided is like Reserve Bank of India, they will lend money to the banks. Okay. Now a question arises. See, why banks has to like come in between? See guys, Reserve Bank of India will involve bank in whatever monetary policy it implements. Okay. So already you must be knowing about the repo rates. It is the rate at which Reserve Banks of India lends to the banks. That is the nationalized banks or commercial banks or whatever banks it might be. So recently, what did Reserve Bank of India did is like they introduced a special liquidity facility for mutual funds. Fine. So special liquidity facility. So in order to revive the mutual funds market, or in order to provide some liquidity relief for the mutual funds, this special liquidity facility for mutual funds was introduced. And what the Reserve Bank of India will do is like they will give money to the banks. So it's like 50,000 crores is allocated by the Reserve Bank of India. So they will give it to the banks at a fixed repo rate. Okay. And the tenure is like 90 days. And what the bank can do is like they can take up the money and they can use this money to lend the mutual funds. So I hope you got the point. So there are many money market instruments as well as capital market instruments. So we can tell financial instruments such as commercial paper, certificate of deposits, debentures, bonds. So mutual funds do issue this. Fine. So mutual funds also issue bonds. So what the bank can do is like they can purchase mutual fund bonds, or they can deposit their money to their mutual funds as a medium of certificate of deposit. So if you deposit to the mutual fund, they will give a certificate. Okay, and added to it, you can also buy the commercial papers of mutual funds or debentures, so that the liquidity crisis which is prevailing among the mutual funds, where they are like not able to invest, that is reduced. Fine. So it is said that this liquidity offered by the Reserve Bank of India will bring some sort of comfort in the debt market. That is like in the mutual funds market. So this money which has been allocated by the Reserve Bank of India is for reviving the mutual funds industry. And this is not to be used in other sectors. So bank will take care of that. And even banks can earn profit because they are like investing in mutual funds. So even banks can get profit out of it. Plus added to it, Reserve Bank of India has also given certain exemptions to the bank. For instance, they have given certain exemptions under priority sector lending, or we can even call this as priority sector targets. So what is this is like? See, Reserve Bank of India says that bank can go in for credit. That is not a problem. But the credit, that is a minimum percentage of the credit, should be to the particular sector. Fine. So credit happens to be an asset for the bank. So it says that minimum 40% of the loan amount which is given by the bank should be to the particular sectors like agriculture, education, housing, MSME, export credit, social infrastructure, renewable energy and others. Fine. So this is priority sector targets which is placed by Reserve Bank of India on the banks. And in this case, that is in special liquidity facility for mutual funds, the Reserve Bank of India has said that, see, banks, there is no need for you to follow this if you are lending for mutual funds. Fine. So the essence here is like this will not be taken into consideration as a priority sector target. Rather, the full amount has to be invested in the mutual funds. like how much ever the bank gets the loan. They have to invest in mutual funds. Fine. And even see, Reserve Bank of India do scrutinize banks for their investment in the capital market. So bank do invest in capital market, and Reserve Bank of India from time to time scrutinizes bank or regulates bank and keeps a check on the bank, telling that, see, this is the limit you can invest in the capital market. And now under this facility, Reserve Bank of India told that, see, banks, you will be given exemptions from these sort of limits. So there are many exemptions which is given for the bank in order to revive the mutual fund sector, so that the liquidity crisis which is prevailing among the market get reduced. Fine. Anyway, this article tries to say is that, see, these sort of schemes will also benefit the bank, and it is available for all the banks. And see, it is also a known fact that many mutual funds are owned by the banks. Even banking industries are involved in the mutual funds market. So even these sort of banks will get benefited out of it. So this is what this article tries to mean. Fine. So that's it for today, guys. And if you have any other opinions, please do write it down in the comment box so that I'll get to know. Okay. So thank you, friends. Thank you for watching.